The Kansas City Chiefs just keep on winning, and Josh Allen wasn't good enough. We'll break down the big weekend on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today as I am every Monday by Locked On NFL expert Louis DiBiase. On today's episode, we're going to rank the coach hirings that happened over the weekend in the NFL, talk about the 50 burger that the Eagles dropped on the Washington Commanders, but we got to start with the biggest game of the NFL season so far, the Kansas City Chiefs taking down the Buffalo Bills once again. Before we dive in, I do want to thank you for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Louis, it's the Kansas City Chiefs once again. It's Patrick Mahomes until it isn't. And quite honestly, I didn't think Josh Allen played well enough to win this game.
I don't think he did either, and it's a shame so many legendary quarterbacks, their legacy might be based on just not being able to beat one guy. I just don't know when this is going to stop.
Yeah, it's hard if you're the Buffalo Bills to talk about what happens from here. I do think there are some clear ways to go. That's obviously stuff that we're all going to get into, but in this moment, man, Kansas City just continues to get the job done. And my guy Ryan Tracy from Locked On Chiefs talked about the big win.
The Kansas City Chiefs have done what they said was impossible and are going back to another Super Bowl after beating the Buffalo Bills in this AFC Championship game, one that was hard fought and came down to the wire yet again. Nothing new for these two teams. We're going to have it all, detail by detail, breakdown, and live from the stadium on Locked On Chiefs. I'm Ryan Tracy, your host over there, and this was a game that was fought back and forth and back and forth. Mahomes actually doing more damage with his legs, which is a new thing here. First time he's been on two steady ankles for this particular game in quite a while, and it did pay off. Make sure that you join us later as we go through step by step. Buffalo Bills fought hard, but weren't able to come up. The Chiefs go back to the Super Bowl for a rematch of 2 years ago against the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll break it all down on Locked On Chiefs, your team every day.
That's what stands out to me is Patrick Mahomes actually did the things that Josh Allen does better than Josh Allen in this game. Like, Patrick Mahomes made the plays with his legs, took off, found a way to get it done, and this is just the same thing that always happens. I also want to point out Xavier Worthy, who the Buffalo Bills allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to trade up and take, and now Xavier Worthy has 6 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown in the game. The next closest to him was Juju Smith-Schuster with 2 catches. So Xavier Worthy was the difference between the Bills passing game and the Chiefs passing game. It was Xavier Worthy that was the difference, and the Buffalo Bills hand-delivered him to the Kansas City Chiefs back in April.
The football gods are sick. I mean, they have a sick sense of humor. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, how do you feel? I mean, Josh Allen, yet again, I agree, Tyler, it felt very similar to last week, what Lamar Jackson did, where in the first half he was pressing, kind of took them out of the game, and then in the second half did enough to keep it close, but the better, more superior quarterback made the last few plays at the end to win it. It was Allen last week. This week it was Mahomes. Beats him again in the playoffs, and like you said, the player that shined the brightest outside of Pat Mahomes was the guy you hand-delivered to them. I mean, it really is a sick, cruel joke. And again, Josh Allen was incredible in moments today, like that 4th down touchdown to Curtis Samuel. I mean, what a clutch moment. But just like Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and so many greats in this league, they just can't beat one guy. And it's right now, it's defining a lot of legacies. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and to juxtapose the Xavier Worthy situation, Keon Coleman, who Buffalo traded down and then selected.
Right.
1 catch, 12 yards. So it's hard not to look at that decision and say that decision might have cost you your season. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
You could logically form a path to say that. Now, I do want to, you started hitting on the Josh Allen conversation. I do want to dive in more to that, but just ultimately such a deflating loss for Buffalo, a fourth straight time not being able to get it done, which sadly Buffalo Bills fans have dealt with before. And my guy Joe Marino from Locked On Bills talked about the disappointment.
For the fourth time in 5 seasons, the Buffalo Bills season is over, courtesy of a playoff loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills. The Bills played sloppy, but had their chances at the end. But 2 things don't go their way. First of all, a very controversial 4th and 1 spot that looked pretty clear to most people that it was a conversion by Josh Allen. Instead, the Chiefs take over on downs and take the lead. And unfortunately, the Bills can't get the game-winning drive. Josh Allen takes possession of the ball just over 3 minutes left in the game. Down 3, 4th and 5. Dalton Kincaid can't catch the football. And the Chiefs once again are headed to the Super Bowl in a result that pretty much nobody outside of Kansas City wanted to happen. Obviously, the Bills have to figure out how to have the breakthrough because once again, their season is over because they can't beat Kansas City in the postseason.
All right, so we might as well just attack it here. What were your thoughts on the spot? Did you think the spot was wrong? Should it have been a first down? Where do you land on that?
It was close. It really was close. So you could go either way. I do think Allen got over the mark. I think it was a first down, but it was a tough angle. The football was kind of buried in it, so you don't really see where exactly the farthest point that it got. So I do kind of understand how either way, it wasn't obvious. I do think he did enough, though, Tyler. But again, it just feels like in these moments, the Kansas City Chiefs, it goes their way. And I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat and saying the refs did it one way or another on purpose, but it just feels like even the Allen throw to Kincaid that's dropped, if it's the Chiefs, it goes their way, and if it's the other team, it doesn't. And I'm starting to just not know how to explain it in an analytical way.
Well, I think, to me, I look to boxing. And with the Chiefs, you're never going to win by decision. You have to knock them out.
It's a great point.
And leave no doubt. You know what I mean? And everybody can be frustrated by that, and I get that. But to me, you're right. It was close. And I think that when you make it close, things probably lean Kansas City. So you cannot allow it to be that close. And I think, Buffalo used the QB sneak about 7 times for about 9 combined inches in that game. So I think you got to look at it from a perspective of, hey, when you have Josh Allen, I know that it's sacrilege to some, but maybe go in shotgun and run that QB power that has been working so well for you. Maybe run just quick QB sweep to the outside. Like, get the ball in Josh Allen's hands with a running start and let him use that frame and fall forward. I know typically I would sit here and tell you, Louis, I think just QB sneak. You're all morons. Why aren't you just QB sneaking? But this is why the analytics conversation is so crazy, because you do have to take what's going on in the game. And Kansas City has done a great job throughout the game stopping that quarterback sneak. And we're running out of time to discuss this game. I could do a whole show on this game, but I just want to say this. Just like with Lamar Jackson last weekend, Mark Andrews dropped the ball. Dalton Kincaid dropped the ball. He probably could have caught it. Were the passes perfect? No. But here's where I'm going to put the blame. The first half performance of the quarterbacks. Josh Allen came out shaky. He had multiple turnover-worthy plays early. He was missing guys high early on. Just like Lamar Jackson was bad and had turnovers in the first half of the game. So we can blame the tight ends, and it's easy to blame the tight ends because that excuses you from criticizing the quarterback. But Josh Allen did not play up to his standard, just like how Lamar Jackson did not play up to his standard last week. And both of them should deserve way more blame than they're going to get because of a bad mistake by one of their tight ends at the very end of the game.
Yeah, and Tyler, last thing I'll say on it, you're 100% right. Against the Chiefs, you have to be special for 4 quarters. Josh Allen was special in quarters 3 and 4. But against the Chiefs, they're the best fourth quarter team I've ever seen. They are the best one-possession team we've seen in NFL history. And I don't think that's a debate anymore. You have to be almost perfect for 4 quarters. And like you said, put them away early. You almost have to blow them out. And even with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, it's just most of the time not enough. So that's exactly what happened again. The same story was written on Sunday night.
Same old, and the Chiefs keep on rolling on. But we're going to get a rematch because the Eagles dropped a 50 burger Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. And when it is time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. And that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions, then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, football fans, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the AFC matchup between the Chiefs and the Bills, with the Chiefs moving forward. But now we'll get a little home cooking from my guy Louis DiBiase here. His Philadelphia Eagles demolish the Washington Commanders, drop a 50 burger on the Commanders. It was just a lights out performance from Philly. Louis, obviously your team, you're covering them. What were your thoughts on the big time win?
It was an unbelievable performance. And of course the Eagles got to the NFC Championship mostly off the backs of Saquon Barkley's historic season. But I thought it was such a confidence booster to see Jalen Hurts have what he quoted as taking the straitjacket off of him today. And he was able to show that, yes, Saquon's going to be the Batman most of the time, but Jalen Hurts can still carry you to wins in big-time moments. He was locked in today, 20 of 28, over 240 yards passing and a touchdown, 3 scores on the ground. We haven't seen it a lot this year because, again, he's been selflessly taking a backseat to Saquon. But I've been asking questions like if they need him to be special in the NFC title against a Jayden Daniels, if they need it in the Super Bowl against a Pat Mahomes, can he be that guy? Seeing that performance today was such a confidence booster. And now, if you're a Jalen Hurts critic, I don't know what else you can say. He's been to the Super Bowl in 2 of 3 years, and he's only 26 years old. Like, this was a much-needed performance, big-time one from QB1.
Well, I think if you were a Jalen Hurts hater, you would say that he has the most talented offensive roster in the entire NFL.
Sure.
That allows him to be inconsistent.
But guess what, Tyler? That's not going away anytime soon. These guys are locked up long-term, so who cares?
Right, exactly. But what I would say is it's funny that we're talking about Jalen Hurts in this game, despite obviously Saquon Barkley emerging as the bigger star. A.J. Brown had a big bounce-back game, which was critical. Dallas Goedert made some plays as well. They have talent there. Devontae Smith makes a big catch in the middle of the game that really kind of tipped the scales the other way and kept a drive going. But I do go back to Jalen Hurts. And on Locked On Titans for Sunday's show, I talked about Jalen Hurts and talked about the mobility and the second reaction playmaking of all 4 quarterbacks that were left in the final 4. And I mentioned Jalen Hurts, who may not be on the level that a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson is. He's not quite that level of player. But his ability to make plays and be mobile, how many sacks did he escape in that game by just getting out of the pocket that didn't even turn into major plays, but allowed Philadelphia in the way that they play offense to stay on time, stay on schedule. Jalen Hurts is just one of those gamers who makes big plays in big moments, and they may not have beaten Kansas City the last time they played, but Jalen Hurts was incredible in that football game. And if you get that version of Jalen Hurts with how good the other aspects of Philly's offense is right now, they have a real chance to knock off Kansas City.
Well, and Tyler, that's the difference between this year's team and the 2022 Eagles is it's not Miles Sanders in the backfield anymore. It is Saquon Barkley. Super Bowl 57. Yeah, they could not run the football. They would definitely not get a 60-plus yard touchdown from their running back on the weekly, and that's what you're getting from Saquon. He has 7 60-plus yard rushing touchdowns this year. So if you can get the complete balanced attack of today against the Chiefs, I think they have as good a chance as anyone to finally take down pretty much the Empire, if you will, our Star Wars fans out there. So I think if they get that version of Jalen Hurts today and they spread the football around, like you said, Goddard, Brown, and Smith were all involved, and Saquon is still carrying the show, then, yeah, it's going to be hard for even Patrick Mahomes to stop this football team. It was just a perfect example of a complete roster that Howie Roseman put together because everybody today contributed to that win.
Yeah, and then you go to the defense. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Jordan Davis getting that sack was absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's not, his area of expertise per se. That's more of a Jalen Carter thing, but seeing the big man run and make a play, you love that. The secondary for the Philadelphia Eagles just so locked in at all times. They've got a good – Philly's always at their best when they have a good rotation on the defensive line, and they got enough guys to go in and out here. I think that the defense is really what gives me confidence that the Eagles might have a chance to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. They can do just enough special things with special players on offense, but that defense can really make a major impact. So that's conversation that we'll obviously have throughout the week, but with Louis on, it only made sense to maybe sink our teeth in a little bit more as to the now and what comes next. But you got to look at it from the Commanders' perspective too here. What an incredible season. I know that they're going to be disappointed, but ultimately, they're going to be disappointed with today's loss or Sunday's loss, but it's hard to be disappointed with the season with what they've done. And my guy David Harrison talked about exactly that.
It's been a great year for the Washington Commanders, but after a disastrous loss in the NFC Championship game, it's going to be a little bit harder to swallow in the short term. This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast. 12 wins in the regular season, back-to-back road game wins in the playoffs, but that road magic wore out in Philadelphia. Philadelphia Eagles running away with the NFC Championship game as they go back to the Super Bowl where they will face either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs. So if there is a silver lining in this whole thing, it is about this first year of this retooling for the Washington Commanders. It was not your rookie quarterback or even any of your rookies, truthfully, that ultimately led to the demise of the team. There are still key pieces in place. And, of course, Jayden Daniels continues to prove to everybody that he has that little something special that can help build a franchise back up. So gives you belief that the Washington Commanders will be back next season and competitive. But we've got a long off season to get through all of the steps that are going to take on the way there. For more on that, go to Locked On Commanders 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David made the point that it wasn't the rookies who made the big mistakes, but I think that when you talk about big games like this, it isn't just about your rookies. Even your veteran players who don't have experience with these sort of big games can be a little mesmerized by how big it is and the pressure gets to them. You look at the three guys who fumbled for Washington. Austin Eckler never played this high a level of football before, playing with the Chargers for most of his career. He never got this far in the playoffs in these sort of big games. Jeremy McNichols, a guy who I covered in Tennessee, has always been a roster bubble guy, a practice squad, barely on the team type guy. He's not used to these big time moments. De'Ami Brown is a guy who has been in the league a few years, but still on his rookie contract. So we're talking about inexperienced players in big-time moments. So they may not be rookies, but I think the problem for the Commanders in this one was simple. They just weren't ready for the moment. And even Jayden Daniels, a little off early, has the interception where he's kind of trying to force it in a window. The Commanders had a great season, but they just weren't ready for the level of football that you got to be at to win these kind of games. And the Eagles have been here before.
Yeah, it clearly looked like one team has been here and is an experienced football team in big moments, and Washington just wasn't. It just felt like they were pressing, and when Philadelphia punched them in the mouth, almost literally at times, A.J. Brown and Marshawn Lattimore getting into it in the end zone. It just felt like the Commanders, their counter, they had a good first punch. Like that first drive, they marched down the field and almost scored a touchdown if it wasn't for, I thought, a cowardly field goal attempt by Dan Quinn.
Gotta keep going there.
Yeah, but then when Philadelphia kept answering back, and they were playing a physical brand of football, it just felt like the Commanders just got in their head and just lost energy. I felt like by the time the second half happened, and it just kept coming, and Philadelphia just had so much talent to overwhelm them. But at the same time, the Commanders' future's bright. I mean, I don't think anyone thought they would be here, and Jayden Daniels had one of the best playoff runs we've seen in a long time for a quarterback, let alone a rookie. So, yeah, they weren't ready for this moment, but I don't think this team's going away anytime soon in this division or this conference.
Here's what I will say, though, Louis. A word of caution from the negative Nancy of the group.
Okay.
The NFL graveyard is filled with teams who will be back.
That's a fair point.
And they don't. And Cliff Kingsbury had a lot to do with how great this offense was this year and the miraculous performance of Jayden Daniels. The challenge for defensive-minded head coaches. How do you replace your talented offensive coordinator? Cliff Kingsbury will be a head coach in the NFL probably by this time next year. And we'll see what happens from there. So just a word of caution. for
No,
the optimistic Washington Commanders fans, because I've been there before. Bengals fans are saying, we'll be back. We'll be back.
That's true. Hey, even as an Eagles guy, I thought with Carson Wentz they'd be back, and they didn't get back with that core. So, no, I see what you're talking about for sure.
The NFL stands for not
for
long.
Yes, sir.
But speaking of that, we got some new head coaches over the weekend. I told you the news was coming, and it's here. We're going to talk about which is the best hire that we saw. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook, whether it's predicting the first touchdown, Saquon Barkley, first touchdown. I'm on it all week. Calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you could place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, Louie, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL Conference Championship Recap. We got the Kansas City Chiefs advancing over the Bills. We got the Philadelphia Eagles stomping the Washington Commanders, a rematch of a couple of years ago. A really, really great Super Bowl, though. So I don't understand everybody complaining that it's not a desirable Super Bowl. These are two great teams. I'm excited to watch it, but I'm always going to be on the side of I'm excited for football. So that's, I love preseason games and stuff like that. So anyways, moving right along. There was some other NFL news over the weekend outside of the games that were played. We anticipated that this would happen on Friday's show of Locked On NFL, and we got three big-time hirings. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we were clowning on Friday's show, me and Ross Jackson, the mastermind, but they ended up getting their guy, Liam Coen, and my guy Tony Wiggins broke it down.
The Jacksonville Jaguars get their man in Liam Coen. I'm Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. It's been a wild roller coaster ride these last few days. First, Ben Johnson says no. Then Liam Coen says no, I'm going back to Tampa. Shot Khan says, hold my beer. Wait a minute. We fire Trent Baalke. We increase this offer. We fly a private jet down to Tampa, and you come back, and we'll see about that. And that's exactly what happened. And Liam Coen decided he was not going to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in the National Football League. He was going to be the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and people are ecstatic, except the people in Tampa. But never mind that. Liam Coen comes here with an idea of fixing the offensive line, running the football, and to help Trevor Lawrence and this team and this franchise get the heights that they had never seen. Follow me on Locked On Jaguars for more coverage of Liam Coen, where it is your team every day.
So good for Jacksonville that they ended up getting somebody they wanted after Ben Johnson told them no. And good for Jacksonville for correcting a wrong and firing Trent Baalke. It doesn't make sense that it took them so long to do it. I don't understand the philosophy of if the coach we want doesn't want the GM, we'll fire him. But if the coach we want does like the GM or doesn't care, then we won't fire him. If he's bad enough to be fired, then fire him anyway. What are we doing here? So terrible process for Jacksonville to get here. But they did get their man. Good for them. Hopefully that elevates Trevor Lawrence. But really the person with stink on their face here is Jacksonville. I don't blame Liam Coen for taking a great opportunity and taking a second listen to what Jacksonville said after they acquiesced to his demands to fire Trent Baalke. I don't blame Tampa Bay for being pissed off that Liam Coen promised you that he was coming back and then he changed his mind. I would be angry about that too. But Jacksonville tried to skirt the Rooney rules with Patrick Graham. They lied to Patrick Graham about Liam Coen's status so that he wouldn't cancel the sham interview. And to me, out of all of this, everybody's mad at Liam Coen, mad at Tampa Bay, the only real villain in this is the Jacksonville Jaguars organization, who got lucky that things didn't blow up in their face like it was looking like, but they did not handle this very well.
No, I totally agree. And I can't get over the fact that they said they were willing to move on from their general manager if the right coach wants him gone. Yet that's the general manager. Is he part of the hiring process, though? Clearly,
Right.
Trent Baalke, though, is going to interview coaches that want him as GM, so you might be missing out on the best candidates.
Insane.
What an insane process. And then to the best quote of all of this was Khan saying that you should go judge somebody by their actions, not by their words. So even he clearly understood how bad this looked from a public perspective. It was, one of the craziest coaching search processes that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. But another hiring that happened was the Las Vegas Raiders hiring Pete Carroll, Super Bowl winning head coach. He's back in the game, and my guy Q talked about that.
What's happening, Raider Nation? It's Q Myers from the Locked On Raiders podcast, and it is official. Like a referee's whistle, the next head football coach of the Silver and Black is one Pete Carroll. 73-year-old Pete Carroll, going to be turning 74. Age does not matter. That dude's got more energy than me, you, and everyone else in that Raiders locker room combined. That dude is a ball of energy. He's bringing a winning attitude and a winning culture to the Silver and Black, something that has clearly been needed. Adam Schefter from ESPN reported it's a 3-year deal for Pete Carroll with a team option for 4. John Spytek, who just signed his deal to be the Raiders GM, signed a 5-year deal, so you can see how the two guys align. 3 years for Pete Carroll for sure, 5 years for John Spytek as they try to turn things around in Las Vegas with this Raiders organization moving forward in 2025 under the leadership of Mark Davis, Tom Brady, and everyone else in that front office there with the Raiders. So for more on this and all things Silver and Black, make sure you tune in to the Locked On Raiders podcast. I'm Q Myers.
I don't mind this for the Raiders. They were in a terrible position and no good candidates wanted that job because they have no roster, no quarterback, the 6th pick. It's instability all around. So Pete Carroll is a program builder, even like that's what he's known for in his core. So I don't think that at his age, he's a long-term solution for them. But for the time being, to set a foundation and build a culture, maybe you could get somebody in there as a natural pass-off from Pete Carroll to the next head coach eventually. I don't think it's a terrible hire for their bad situation.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the Raiders had like the 1st or 2nd overall pick and they were going to take Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, then I would say I don't love this hiring. I would get a younger guy, a play caller, someone with stability for your young quarterback. But yet again, the Raiders are kind of in no man's land in the quarterback market where unless you, overpay for a Sam Darnold, like this year, you're yet again, like last year, you're not going to get that long-term solution, odds are. So, hey, bring in a culture builder, bring in, as I've heard people say, bring in an adult into the room and right with a team that just has so much work to do and just from the bottom up, like kind of build the structure of this thing and then maybe upgrade it because he is so old at this point. I think for their situation, it's fine. But I think clearly if things were in a much more ideal spot at the quarterback position specifically, this wouldn't have been the move. So it's kind of a weird hiring, but I guess for their situation, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, you got $5 to put together the best meal you can, and you come back with, a couple Big Macs. It's like, is this great? No.
You'd be mad at me if I had $100 and that's what it came back with, but I only had $5. No, exactly.
Right, exactly. You did the best you could, Raiders. All right. Just a pat on the head. You did the best you could.
Exactly.
Pat on Mark Davis's bowl cut. But with that being said, the Dallas Cowboys, the least interesting move of the 3, surprisingly, the Dallas Cowboys, they promote offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. And what the heck is going on? Landon McCool from Locked On Cowboys broke it down.
Breaking news, and on a Friday night, no less, the Dallas Cowboys announced Brian Schottenheimer as the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Hi, I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and it has been the talk of the town all week and has been something that the Cowboys fans have been wishing wasn't true, it seems like, for the most part, but the announcement has now finally come through late on a Friday night on, I think, almost 9 o'clock Eastern. The Dallas Cowboys have selected Brian Schottenheimer as their next head coach. Lots of questions still to come. Who's the offensive coordinator? Who's the defensive coordinator? Is Brian Schottenheimer calling plays? Who of the previous staff is being retained? All this is still to come, but the big news, obviously the headline is the Cowboys have made a decision. It seems that Stephen Jones has won over against his father and selected Brian Schottenheimer as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is insane. And I think the timing of the press release, it coming out late on a Friday night when no one's paying attention, tells you all you need to know about how the Cowboys feel about this move. This is uninspired. It's ridiculous to think that Brian Schottenheimer is a better head coach than Mike McCarthy right now. They should have just ponied up and got a 2-year extension done with Mike McCarthy and kept it going and fired him after 1 year if it wasn't good enough. This is awful.
I thought I woke up and it was 2011 where people are trying to hire Schottenheimer because of the great job he did with Mark Sanchez and with the New York Jets. I mean, it's an unbelievable move from the Dallas Cowboys, but it really isn't unbelievable because Jerry Jones, this is kind of what he has done over the last, at least my entire lifetime watching this sport. And it's another guy he can control, right? I think that's another part of this.
Yes,
and
a yes man.
Yeah, he wanted to. It's weird because he clearly didn't believe in the current core of players and coaches that he had, but he was also just unwilling to make dramatic change. He was going year by year with. He was slow on the contract.
Why promote?
That's what I'm saying. If you
don't believe in your core, why promote from it?
I don't understand it. I mean, you were weak. You were going year by year with Prescott and with CeeDee Lamb's contract, it felt like, and Mike McCarthy. So I'm like, okay, you're not in on this core. So make a change, and then you just promote from within. A guy that didn't even call plays last year. I mean, as an Eagles guy, it's so funny they did this the week of the Commanders and Eagles being in an NFC title because it shows they are so far behind. But I'm not going to lie, I kind of enjoy it, Tyler. I'm enjoying it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of a hate watch there. I don't.
A little bit of a hate watch.
All right, quick, 5 seconds. Out of the 3, which is the best hire?
I do think it's Liam Coen. If you're going to get Lawrence back, it's Coen.
Yep, I agree with you. They had to prioritize getting Trevor Lawrence back on track. And that was the right move. And they probably would have ended up with like Robert Saleh if they didn't. So bad process, but they did get a guy that makes a ton of sense. But with that, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. Check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. He's going to have a lot to say about these conference championship games. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, Louis DiBiase. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as I tell you every show, stay safe out there.